So the NBA draft concluded 2 days ago. Why don't we start talking about the Rookie of the Year for 2019? Marvin Bagley has a chance because he's going to get the ball a lot with the Sacramento Kings. Trae Young is going to shoot the ball probably the most on Atlanta. And given his shooting ability and underrated passing, I think he has a bid for the award. Collin Sexton's roster may be completely different than what we saw this year. A lot of that depends on LeBron's decision. But I think you have to slot him in there as well. Of course, DeAndre Ayton, the number 1 overall pick. That is not a foreign concept for Rookie of the Year. And we throw in Luka Doncic as well. And I do think it's going to be one of those guys. Apologies to everyone else in the draft, but I think it is going to be one of these, 5 guys I believe the number is? Whatever, if I can remember math. But let's talk about Doncic some more. And, I've spoken a lot about how I think his career is going to go, but if we just stick to this one season, I think the stat line that we can expect from him this year could be something along the lines of 14, 15 points, maybe a tad below, just for whatever reason. A solid 6 to maybe 7 assists a game, 4 or 5 rebounds, and being an all-around, just pretty damn good player, but maybe not averaging the 20 to 25 points per game that is sometimes necessary to win the Rookie of the Year, right? I think his outside shooting is going to play a role in this because his jumper does need to see some improvement, and maybe it won't see the big improvement that it really needs in his first year, even though I'm pretty confident in it if we fast forward a few seasons. So the stat line should be pretty damn good overall, but sometimes just being great at one particular thing may win you the trophy over Doncic's all-around impact, I guess, right? I guess there's also a fear that he won't be able to beat NBA defenders off the bounce in year 1 enough to generate enough points and assists for himself, but I think that's looking on the negative side. I do think he's going to be pretty okay at getting into the teeth of the defense. If we look at other players in the team, though, you look at Dennis Smith Jr., of course, he is going to take the ball away from Doncic somewhat. Rick Carlisle is used to having multiple ball handlers playing, so I expect both of these guys to be sharing the ball a lot. I don't think one is going to be dominating the ball more than the other. We're going to see a lot of off-ball movement. But still, if Doncic was on, let's say, the Hawks, then he would probably have a higher usage rate than he will when Dennis Smith Jr. is his teammate. So I think that can throw a monkey wrench into it. I do think we should also look at Harrison Barnes. He's probably the third option now. Solid idea if you ask me. But he could also have a few isolations, because he does like to go to that, and that could steal a couple possessions a game away from Doncic that would help him out. We go to DeAndre Ayton next. There is a decent chance that he puts up 25 and 10 rebounds in his very first season. I do think he could be one of those kind of rookies, because Phoenix is just going to dump the ball to him in the low post so often. Because outside of Devin Booker, they don't have any real source of offense. TJ Warren's cool, but take your pick. TJ Warren ISOs or DeAndre Ayton anything. I think we all would have the same answer there. The rebound should help him out as well. And if he goes on to grab 10 to 12 boards a game, then Rookie of the Year voters may look at that more so than Doncic's combination of assists and rebounds, I guess. The fear would be that Ayton's post-game is maybe not as refined as we all think it is. I don't think that's the case. It's safe to assume that he's going to get a lot of buckets around the rim, and some NBA centers, I said this before, some NBA centers are just going to have no chance because they're just going to be physically overwhelmed by the guy. But then the dudes who can actually not get pushed around against him, they're not so good on defense outside of Joel Embiid, I guess, and a couple others. Devin Booker will make a difference because he's going to shoot the ball a lot, and I wouldn't be surprised if he still led the team in shot attempts, which could be the thing that knocks Ayton's scoring down from 25 a game to 19, which could be the difference. Let's get to Collin Sexton. The big thing with him is that we have no real idea what the team around him is going to look like. If LeBron is there, then he's definitely not winning Rookie of the Year. But I don't think that Sexton is the type of guy that's going to make LeBron want to stay either. And if LeBron is out, then of course the ball will be in Sexton's hand more often. He'll be able to make plays for himself, make plays for others. I think he does show some good abilities at getting inside and all that, but I don't think he's the most refined point guard ever. I don't expect his assists to be through the roof. That doesn't mean he won't get some, but they may not be high enough to really put him in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. But still, could he end up with a season where he puts up like 17 points and 5.5 assists? Potentially. I guess if the Cavs were to try to acquire a bunch of young dudes and play them, that could hurt his chances of stockpiling the assists. But it could help him that Kevin Love may be on the roster, and Kevin Love with a bigger role can still put up a decent amount of points. He may take away some possessions away from Sexton, but at the same time, he could give him a shooter and a guy who can score around the rim and allow Collin to make some extra plays and pad the stats a little bit. Trae Young may be the biggest example out of everyone here of a team just asking him to do kind of everything. I don't think there's a second star on this team, or even a second guy who may average over 15 points a game. I should also mention that I think Schroeder is going to be out. I think Atlanta is going to do everything they can to move him this offseason and give Trae Young all the reins at point guard. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. He's going to be moving off screens a lot. I think he's an underrated playmaker who could actually get his assists up to be higher than maybe all of us were expecting. I mean, the big story is, of course, his shooting and his size and whether he's going to be able to survive on defense. But we must remember, the dude made a lot of plays in college getting his teammates some good looks. And to my understanding, if it's correct, the team around him was not that great at Oklahoma, and he was still able to have some decent assist games. So that could translate over to the NBA. I mean, I think it's in play for him to average high teens and shoot well from three and make Atlanta exciting, and that could be the type of thing that helps you out with the award. I should say, there is one teammate who I think could put up some points and maybe take away some possessions, and that's Taurean Prince. He's not that much of a ball handler. Not to say that he can't do it, but I would expect the difference between him and Trae Young to be still pretty drastic in terms of possessions per game, and I'm sure Trae is going to lead this team in usage rate by far. And, I mean, you could even say that Taurean Prince will dribble the ball so little that he'll actually just make Trae Young's day better in terms of stats. Then we go to Marvin Bagley, who may be second to Trae Young in terms of responsibility. There are some guys on this team, but you've got kind of like specialists, I think, or guys who are kind of close to being specialists, whereas Bagley is a do-it-all sort of an offensive player. He may be like second only to Anthony Davis in terms of alley-oop potential. The moment he walks into the NBA, his transition game is going to be great. I don't know if he's going to play center or power forward. I guess for stats purposes, it would probably be better if he was at center just because the spacing would be better and he would have more room to just do work around the basket. But in terms of rolling to the rim, showing somewhat of a jump shot, hopefully, doing enough in transition, and then between offensive rebounds and just the fact that the Kings are going to feed him the ball so much, I wouldn't be surprised if Bagley puts up the best stats of all the rookies in this season, resulting in him winning the award. But then we fast forward a couple of years and he's maybe the third or fourth best rookie out of this class. And I should mention, when I say specialists, I mean like De'Aaron Fox makes plays, Buddy Hield shoots jumpers, and Bogdan can score, but he's not a big-time scorer, that sort of thing. If I had to pick someone, though, I'm probably going to go with Doncic. I think he's the best player. I think he's the most NBA ready, given just what he's been doing overseas and for how old he is. Also got really good size at 6'8", 220, 230 or so. So I'm pretty much on the Doncic bandwagon and then some, so I might as well maintain it for this video.